friends, and welcome back to another very exciting episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast. I am Jamie.
I am Mark, and thank you for joining us. We've got a lot to talk about this week. It seems like every time we start an episode, we always have a lot to talk about, and then we end up talking about a lot. And
2 to 3 times more than we've ever planned for.
If you guys even knew the amount of stuff we end up having to cut out of this podcast, that's just us rambling in between actually talking about stuff that we think you guys want to talk about. So what do you guys want to talk about? By the way, if you have anything you want to talk about, you want us to talk about, or if you want to give us a comment on, let us know, and we'll bring it up on the next podcast.
Yeah, if you haven't followed us already, we're at CAW Wrestling Pod across
all social media
platforms.
There's even a TikTok. I have confirmed it. We have a TikTok. I don't know how to post or make TikToks,
but we're there.
We got a TikTok.
And also, just to clarify, coffeeandwrestling.com, just make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, all links are underneath there. But thank you so much for joining us this week.
Sometimes I'm going to be honest with you. The week wraps up and I look at Mark and I'm like, I don't know. I don't really know what to talk about this week, you know?
Yeah,
it was a good week, but maybe, not a lot going on.
There's little points here and there, and we don't try to get into like the nitty gritty, like backstage as much, the drama bullshit that ends up happening in the professional wrestling world that happens in any sports, capacity. But yeah, every once in a while we get there's not a lot to really
kind of like a rut,
to go on, and eventually we get into a point where we're able to talk about enough to make something viable like a podcast.
Well, here's that week.
This week definitely
all around
gave us everything that I wanted to talk about.
Week.
I felt like this entire week I have been vindicated of all judgment. Like 3 of the things that I perceived that were going to happen months ago have come to fruition. I still think one is in the works.
You're good at calling this, months in advance.
Oh, it's so good. I mean,
fun all around. Every promotion. Watched a little bit of TNA this week. Really enjoyed that too.
TNA's on fire. Ever since they decided to go back to that TNA moniker,
I'm so excited.
They have really put a lot more into their production. That you can tell that they're putting a lot more into the wrestling and putting in more so that it's I don't know, it's just better.
The passion is there. Like and it's undoubtable.
Right.
Like, whenever you watch it, the people that are there are really happy to be there. You can tell Scott is really having a good time. The fans are just on fire. TNA fans are just incredible.
And I mean, they just had the Hard to Kill, which was like the official start of TNA wrestling back from the Impact. It's still Impact. That's the name of the show. It's like WWE's Raw and SmackDown. It is TNA Impact. I don't know if they're calling it the Impact Zone anymore.
I was just about to say that too, the Impact Zone.
I don't know if they're going that old school because it used to be in Orlando and that was the Impact Zone. And if you know, if you've ever been to an Impact taping back in like mid-2000s, you know how special of a promotion it was. And it was really like, it gave you an alternative to the WWE,
right?
When there wasn't an alternative,
right?
And it wasn't like the biggest known thing, and it was kind of one of those. If you're a true professional wrestling fan, you would enjoy.
Oh yeah,
TNA Impact,
and again the dynamic wrestling fans that they've been able to provide this show to for so many years because it was free.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally free. If it was raining and you were at Universal and you just wanted to get away for a minute, like just dip in here and watch Impact.
Oh, it was great. I don't know how many times we went down there and it was just like, all right, let's go to wrestling.
Because why not? All you needed was the gas money to get there, and we're like, what, about an hour and a half?
Well, yeah, it was great. I remember when we went to Hardcore Justice, me and Jade Koth and a few of our friends, we just loaded up in my van. We drove down to Orlando. There was no tickets to buy or anything. And the only drawback was you had to stand in line for like 2.5 hours if you were trying to get in, on purpose.
Decent seats, too.
Yeah. So you'd be standing there for 2.5 hours, and the only drawback is it's the state of Florida, and it's hotter than anything else in the entire United
Devil's
States.
armpit.
So you would have to deal with that. But once you were in, it was air conditioned, it was seated. It was really kind of a cool experience. And a lot of times they would record more than just one show. They would do multiple matches.
So like they did for ROH when we went there.
Yeah, you'd get a large amount of professional wrestling for free. It was great.
We went to ROH. It was what, like $15, I think.
I think it was 20 for tickets each.
We watched about, 15, 20 matches every time we went.
Yep, I think they ended up recording 2 episodes over one taping.
One night, yeah.
So, I mean, you think about it, let's say that's, 6-7 matches per show. So you think it's 12, 13 matches over the course of 3-4 hours. I mean, it's a hell of a time.
It was insane.
But this, like I said, they had TNA's Hard to Kill. They had probably the best match on the card and a real testament to where they're going in the direction with TNA. They had Will Ospreay took on Josh Alexander.
That's actually the day after, but completely irrelevant.
That's right. It's the New Year's Bash thing or whatever.
Something like that, yeah.
I can't. It's so hard to keep up with all these names.
Well, it was like 2 shows in 2 nights. I think they did Hard to Kill, and then the next day they did like a pseudo little pay-per-view, and kind of like you were saying before, they just take several matches and spread it over several weeks.
Right. Well, I mean, kind of like AEW Dark used to be, to where they would have a couple of matches they'd record after or before Dynamite or Rampage, and they would eventually, over the course of a few weeks, they would put that on an episode of AEW Dark.
Right.
But you're not paying too much attention to the crowd, so it's kind of one of those oblivious facts. But this match was amazing. Like it really was. Josh Alexander is an amazing performer. You don't have to say anything about Will Ospreay. Like he comes in there, just it's going to be a good match. But Josh Alexander really looked like the star that TNA needs.
Yes.
And it's their Hulk Hogan, their Roman Reigns, their John Moxley. He's really, and you could tell the fans were behind him, because even though Will Ospreay was, probably the favorite to win that fight, the crowd the entire time was behind their boy. They were behind Josh Alexander and he looked tired, he looked winded, he looked beat up, and in the entire match it just showcased the tenacity of Josh Alexander being the top guy in TNA, and being
solidifying
the guy
that place,
constantly throwing his shoulder up, constantly kicking out, constantly doing everything he
did not give up,
and ended up getting the win.
And Will made him look so good. What a respectful thing for Will to do.
Well, I mean, Will's even come out and said how much he appreciates TNA, because that was the promotion that got him to love and want to be a professional wrestler when he was a young kid. They couldn't get WWE as easily as they could TNA, and I guess TNA had made a deal
crazy. I didn't know that.
With the whatever television company that was part of Will's TV whatever channels.
In England.
He was able to watch TNA. If I remember right, I think for a while they had free pay-per-views for TNA, but I might be incorrect in assuming that. But it was something to where TNA was able to be easily digested by England fans. So he even said he grew up watching AJ Styles. That's why he is a huge AJ Styles fan, is because he grew up and idolized him growing up. So to see him and come back to TNA and actually try to perform the Styles Clash on
and this
Josh
match
Alexander
ended in a Styles Clash. Actually,
it was such a good callback to TNA in honest to God their prime, and how they're trying to get back to that prime. They might never get back
Joe
to it.
And Christopher Daniels.
It was such a special time in professional wrestling. It wasn't WWE, because again, it was an alternative that it blew the mainstream out of the water with the performance of the people that were in there. You didn't have to be on the WWE
Taz.
to
it
feel
was
like
different,
you were accomplished.
Yeah.
It was really good, and I really feel like this match encompasses a lot of those same values.
Totally.
So it's good to see that they're back to doing that.
And if you didn't get a chance to see it, it actually is on YouTube for
that
free.
Match is free. Yep.
If you subscribe to NJPW, it's on there for free as well. No commercials.
Yep.
I think
it's Japanese commentary. But
you don't need the commentary. You don't need the commentary. Not that the team isn't fantastic over at TNA, but definitely give yourself the 15, 20 minutes it was. And
it's a good match. It's a good watch. Like I said, if you've ever had doubts about TNA and the capabilities of them putting on a match that is interesting enough that you want to sit there and watch it, watch this match. Really,
that'll
honest
end
to
your
God.
doubt for sure.
And if you just like professional wrestling, watch this match. It's such a good match. It just, even though I told you the outcome of it, it's such a good back and forth between two very over guys, and the crowd. That is the one special thing about the TNA crowds. I'm going to shut up after. I know I've been talking for 8 minutes about TNA. But that is one of the most special things about TNA is the crowds are so enthusiastic about that product and about what shows up. It's so good to see.
Understandably so. They put out a stellar program. Their wrestlers, their talent is literally next level.
Right.
Some of the people they have there are so young and so fresh and are going to be the face of TNA 10 years from now. It's an exciting time.
I really think the best way you can compare TNA now is to how NXT is, just on a smaller scale.
Right.
It's just they've got the
very
talent,
passionate.
They've got the passion. They've got different storylines.
Sure.
That isn't the tribal chief. That isn't just about the world championship.
TNA goes really storyline heavy, and I love that. They're not afraid to be spooky or weird.
They give the props to the champions.
They do.
But 100%, they get behind the storyline.
They have fun with storyline, which I really, really, really love. Oh, if we're going to talk about fun storyline, I feel like it's only fair to talk about the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. I can't believe that this is actually happening. We have the craziest group, and here we go.
I'm gonna set the alarms off. This one hasn't happened yet, but I swear to God, I gotta be better with the memory on what we say in which podcast. I gotta start writing down the main points I say, because I swear if you go back probably about 10 episodes, I mentioned something about the Acclaimed and Bullet Club Gold getting together and forming a supergroup. And then eventually that turning into...
How could you ever, predict that?
War Dogs, Bullet Club War Dogs coming over from NJPW during the Forbidden War pay-per-view to have a 6-on-6. Forbidden Door. It's going to be a Forbidden War.
Yeah, right.
It's going to have a 6-on-6 AEW Bullet Club versus NJPW Bullet Club and a clash of... I'm almost thinking fucking 2 rings cage matches in a golf cart.
Oh, my.
It
needs to go all out.
God, I swear to God, I got to go back and listen to our podcast and figure out where I said that.
The War Dogs really just talk a lot of smack about AEW.
Love
and
the War
fake
Dogs.
Bullet Club, and they're always referencing the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and
David Finlay just beat John Moxley and AEW's one of their newest signings, Will Ospreay, for the belt in NJPW.
The ratings on the wall, and I feel like
attacking them unprovoked.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So good.
The ratings on the wall, but they've come together, and it seems like an
guns up, scissors up, doesn't matter what.
Yeah,
put them up, baby.
Yeah, put them up.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. I say it all the time. I say I love this. I love that. I love professional wrestling, and I love this. I love the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. I love that the only reason that the Guns family are back together is because of an association between 2 separate groups.
Exactly, not even them. And it's funny because when Collision happened this week, everybody was getting into the ring. You looked at me and you were like, but why would they want to be? Why would the Acclaimed want to be with, the Bang Bang Gang?
Right.
And the only answer is just Anthony and Max Caster just want to be friends with everybody, specifically Max.
Everybody.
Max is always looking to be friends with everybody, with Danhausen, with MJF, with whoever wants to be his friend.
There's power in friendship, and the more friends you have in wrestling, 2 things: the more friends you have in wrestling, the more power you have. And also the more people that are going to stab you in the back in about 3 weeks.
Well, of course. But we'll have fun for the meantime.
Well, plus
6 belts between them.
But it's going to be a 7-man troop right now, because you've got what's the newest member of Bullet Club Gold?
Oh, Juice Board?
Juice Board card box or something?
Something like that.
I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. I read all the time people just complaining about Jay White hasn't made his potential known in AEW. They've used him as a joke. They've done this.
I don't know. I love it.
It doesn't seem like it to me. I mean, he's had a hell of a run with the world title with Max. He's now the Trios champion. I mean,
he was fantastic in the Continental Classic,
and he just gets love everywhere he goes. Like everybody is frothing at the mouth to see him get the wins. You know what I mean? So I don't see what people aren't. People are all over Jay White. They love Jay White in AEW.
They do. Oh, absolutely. I think it's tough because you have these top guys and other promotions coming into AEW, and everybody that loves them just wants them to get the title, and it's not fair. Deonna Purrazzo is going to be able to fight Toni Storm soon, and that's great. But should she get the belt? Hell no.
Well, it's that same argument that came up when Bronson Reed went to the WWE, and everybody was saying, he was wrestling Okada, the week before, and it's like, you're right, he was, but that doesn't mean that it's a lower step down. It's a shift. If you've ever been in a job to where you've worked your way up a little bit and you make a lateral move to another company, even though you have that same status in the other company, you have a reputation that you have to build up. You have people's opinions about you. You have to, prove to them that you're what you say you are. So when you make that move from one place to another, whether it's bigger, smaller, or whatever, it's not he used to fight the top guy in this company and now he's in the low card in this company. It's
not low card though.
You got to work your way up no matter where you are.
It's a different company, and he's even admitted that it's just a different.
Right.
It's a different setting,
I feel like Jay White's the same thing. He hit the top. He was the top guy in NJPW for years, and now he went to AEW, and you can't have him walk in the door and give him the belt right off rip. Like, it doesn't make a damn bit of sense.
But it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel rewarding. It doesn't feel like, wow, this is what's supposed to happen.
Right.
The struggle is the biggest part of the reward.
Right.
That's why when Cody does finally finish the story, it's going to be like, wow, this really actually finally happened.
Right.
You can't just give it to him the first time. Who cares? Because then what happens after the story? Nobody cares.
Then you've completely blown your load.
Right.
You've completely...
Nobody cares.
You've lost all of the value of a person for the next 3 years.
Yeah. So let's have fun with the idea that Max Caster and Jay White are on the same tag team.
Right.
You know, what I love too, it was Billy Gunn and Jay White. Billy Gunn had the guns up, and Jay White came in with the scissors.
I think it was the other way around.
No.
Was it? Okay.
They did the opposite.
Doesn't matter either way.
They did the opposite for each other and came in. I loved it.
It's so good. And
it was
the
fun.
crowd pops so hard.
The guns are all back together.
For now.
Yeah.
For now, I feel like it's either, I think we're going to see some friendly competition from the two groups, because both of them are very volatile in being confident in their capabilities.
Sure.
So I could see some abrasions, but I'm really hoping this builds into something even bigger.
Yeah.
I can't see it not. I mean, I feel like we're sitting looking at it's a similar situation to MJF and Adam Cole. They hated each other. Now they're kind of like, well, maybe there's some value in us teaming up. And then there's always that, well, who's going to backstab who first?
Right. And the Trios division is just really building itself up, because we have the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. That's that gang.
Right.
That's 2 sets. But we also have another feud happening on Collision between FTR and Daniel Garcia and House of Black.
Well, FTR and House of Black have had numerous encounters with one another over the past couple of months,
which I've loved.
They've become quite a thorn in FTR's side. Daniel Garcia, of course, having his only win in the entire Continental Classic was against Brody King. So there's a good little bit of history between all 6 of these guys, and I mean, they've got a cage match coming up next Saturday.
Yeah, well, Daniel Garcia and Buddy Matthews went head to head. They went on 1-1. The other guys were around the ring, but it really let the two of them kind of wrestle.
FTR even came out and gave Daniel Garcia a little bit of backup. Knowing
yeah,
that,
it was great. They didn't really interfere
much,
which was nice. So they had an actual just great back and forth, and
really
Daniel Garcia actually got a legitimate no interference pin.
There was a little bit of shenanigans going on, but it wasn't enough to contribute to one or the other.
Right.
But honest to God, he had Buddy gassed there for a little bit. They really did a good job not making Buddy look like, I mean, honest to God, put those two in a pit and say, hey, you two fight each other until one of you wins. 9 times out of 10, Buddy Matthews
Garcia's not coming out. I liked that Cash was on the side hyping him up, and he was like, Daniel, you're the better wrestler. Mm-hmm. You're not stronger. Right. But you just need to out-wrestle him.
Yep, so you're recognizing that he has weaknesses, but beyond those weaknesses, you also have strengths.
Exactly, so remember that. So it was kind of him telling Daniel Garcia, but really Cash, telling the crowd, too, the people watching, let it simmer. He can out-wrestle him, and he
can
did.
Do this. Give him the chance, give him, with enough tenacity and grit, you can get through this and get it done. And
he hit him with the most electrifying move in sports entertainment.
It's going to be so good. I can't wait to see the comments.
Roll-up.
We caught up on it about an hour ago. I can't wait to get on the internet and see how many people are pissed off about the roll-up. I love it. But yeah, we're building up to a cage match between the House of Black, FTR, and Daniel Garcia on Collision next week.
Yes. Smart move from Tony Khan trying to get people to not watch the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, Royal Rumble will be happening. Not a lot announced for Royal Rumble so far, though.
No, so might have to switch over to that steel cage match.
All right. I know there was a lot of controversy before this match. Thank you, Tony Khan, for making the Twitterverse, Xverse, whatever you want to call it, the most volatile place in the entire world. Hook versus Samoa Joe. Who the fuck was Hook? Well, Hook showed you who the fuck Hook was.
Oh, yeah. We talked about this on our episode last week of how we thought that they could do this match, because you couldn't just have Hook get squashed. That was going to do horrible for his career. But obviously, he wasn't ready for the championship either.
There's no way he was going to win the title.
Right. So how do you make
this early into Joe's championship?
Of course, this is the first defense. You have to be able to defend.
The internet would literally burst into flames if that would have happened.
Yeah, exactly. So they only gave it about 15 minutes, maybe even less, for this match to actually happen. So
it was enough.
I was nervous. I'm not going to lie. With the little bit of time left, it looked like it could be potentially a squash, which again,
Right.
I was real worried about. Hook took his licks. Let's say Hook definitely got a beating.
I really think they told a great story with this.
They did. If you paid attention, yes.
I think they made Joe obviously look like the dominant champion that he is.
Very important.
Absolutely. I mean, he really did completely dominate Hook.
Yeah, he had every move in the book on him.
80% of that match, it was Joe just using Hook to show how strong he is.
Oh, exactly.
The only difference is 60% of the time, I'm doing some Steiner math here.
Okay.
60% of Joe's 80%, Hook was just getting up.
Eating it.
Wasn't even worrying about it. He showed, the damage that was done, but as soon as he gets hit, he's rolling back over to get up. Mm-hmm. I mean, that even bled into the end of the match when Joe won, started to walk away. Hook stands up after being choked out and, passed out, and looks over at Joe and yells loud enough the cameras hear, "Is that all you got, Joe?" Joe comes back in and just annihilates him. I mean, to the point where he even kicked out at one on a muscle buster.
Right.
And they did a great job giving Hook the platform to say, okay, go out there and show people why you have the potential to be the face of this company.
Exactly.
And between the fan reaction, between the support that he gets from the fan base, and from how well everybody does with him in matches, I can't see how this guy won't at least be in the title picture in the next year and a half.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, if they continue to push him like this and continue to raise this momentum with him and keep him so, like, he feels like a younger Eddie Kingston because the crowd can connect with him. There's no gimmick. There's no bullshit. There's no, I'm wearing a mask because my father. Nope. Doesn't even bring up the idea that Taz is his father.
No, he's just relatable.
The only people that do are the announcers, and they mention something, "Hey, Taz, your son," and that's about the extent of it.
Exactly.
Taz doesn't even take favoritism.
No,
when
he doesn't say much about it, which is nice.
The way that they're putting this kid over is the best thing they could do for him.
Oh, absolutely. I really enjoyed the way that they did this.
I did too, and what's really nice is it gave it enough meat on the bone so that they can revisit this later on in a rematch. Whether it's for the title or not, they have history enough to when they cross paths again, when they look eye to eye and they've got that snarl, you can go back and be like, oh, do you remember when Hook had that fight and almost brought Joe to his knees and got the belt?
He suplexed him and kicked out at one on a muscle buster.
That gnarly T-bone suplex on Joe.
Insane.
Yeah, this entire match was such a well told story. And eat my butt cheeks if you're not convinced that Hook's not the next big thing in AEW.
And kudos to AEW for having these veterans like Samoa Joe, like Adam Copeland, like Bryan Danielson, that are just putting over the young talent.
Well,
putting over the next guy.
Copeland, he had a match. Who do you have a match with this week?
He had a match with Dante Martin, which been my favorite one yet. I loved it.
Just fresh off his ankle injury.
Yeah,
thank God he came back.
Injury.
But I've been loving what Adam Copeland's been doing too. You brought it up. Really putting over that younger talent. Really putting him in a situation to where they have to perform and look good because
here's your chance.
Because everybody knows that Adam Copeland's going to walk in that ring and he's going to do his 50%.
Right.
So that means Dante Martin, Lee Moriarty, whoever else has to go in that ring and perform just as much to fill in that other 50% to make that match look good.
Right. And they're not guaranteed to be able to do that. So it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's a great showcase for these people. And I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed to be able to see people that don't get that singles time a lot on Collision or on Dynamite. I really have to take a moment to say, I cannot believe it's happening, though. Adam Copeland said, rookie, veteran, I don't really care who steps up for the Cope Open.
I cringe every time he comes up with some weird catchphrase. I don't know what it is.
He's very much like Tony Khan. He'll just come up with something and just roll with it like that. At any rate, the next person to accept
another young talent, up and coming,
wrestler,
has never wrestled in a train during rush hour.
Actually, and that was fantastic. What a highlight of 2023. Minoru Suzuki.
Oh my God. The murder grandpa is taking on the Rated R superstar.
Wow. On a Wednesday night just because.
I'm
What
ready.
a time to be alive. I
I'm
can't
ready.
wait.
I love Minoru Suzuki.
I can't wait. I love Minoru Suzuki.
By the way, if you've not seen him wrestle in a train, you should go on YouTube. It was DDT Pro. They had a professional wrestling match on a moving train during rush hour in Japan.
He has also wrestled a 14-year-old Riho.
Yes.
That's on the internet, too.
There's a lot of things Minoru Suzuki has done.
Yes.
But yeah,
just casually coming to Dynamite on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, he does that from time to time.
Yeah.
Just in town, like,
I'm bored.
I flew over to, I think they're going to be in Louisiana tomorrow or next week. So he's just like, oh yeah, I'm in Louisiana that day.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Murder Grandpa and,
Murder Grandpa and,
going to all the,
whatever he does. What do you think?
He just goes to breakfast.
That's what he does with his free time?
That man is 100%. Okay, Minoru Suzuki is two things. He is the guy that always goes to breakfast. And he's also
Very
the guy
early, too.
that can either be the best tipper you've ever had or the worst customer you've ever had. And you know that. I know you worked in the food industry for a little bit, in the serving portion. You know that guy. He'd walk in, he'll spend $8 on an egg and a hash brown and a coffee and leave you a $20 bill. But if you don't refresh his coffee every 5 minutes, that's going to be $1.50.
He will find the chef and he will slap him right across the his chest.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Murder Grandpa. Tony Khan's at it again. He's changing the format
Shenanigans
of All Elite Wrestling. And I mean, this might go hand in hand. There's some severe changes going on in AEW. We're going to go over two things real quick. There's not much to talk about the rankings, but Tony Khan has said that this month, January, we only have, 10 days left in January, that the ranking system will return to All Elite Wrestling. I'm
excited for it.
It brings
if they
in the
do
dynamic.
It right.
If they do it right. And the problem is, not the problem. The one benefit that they had prior to doing it this time was they had AEW Dark and they had AEW Dark Elevation. And you were able to pad the stats of people so that you could position them better on the rankings.
Right.
They don't have that anymore. Mm-hmm. They do have Ring of Honor, but I don't know if that's going to come into play for the AEW, statistics.
Ranking system, right.
But they're going to run into the issue of now, like I said, if you have Julie as the champion and you want Mariah May to come in and challenge for the TNT title, or I'm sorry, the TBS title, if she doesn't have enough matches, you can't just immediately
throw them in there.
Yeah, we're going to throw on the 3 saved up dark matches we have so she gets those wins, and now we're going to put her on Dynamite.
But it's good because now we need to put Mariah May on TV. We need to actually have some forward momentum, which adds to more of a storyline, which in turn can be a better
more
product.
Focus on more people if you want them to be involved later on in stories.
And that's the biggest criticism I think about AEW lately. Well, maybe not the biggest, but one of the biggest. Is that the storyline? The storyline isn't there sometimes, which I'm personally okay with. I'm down to just watch a good match just because
of course,
it's going to be a decent match. But this adds again more dynamic of Mariah May has fought 5-6 nights in a row to be able to get up the ranking system to fight Julia. It just adds more to that. It makes it more interesting.
I was about to say even just. It is nice just to see some wrestling matches, but tell me it's also not just nice to have a really good storyline.
Oh, sure.
Together. A solid one that feels like that they thought, gave some forethought to it.
Or just added to, like Claudio and Eddie Kingston. Every time they even walk past each other, they're just middle fingers and,
right.
Despicable glares at each other because they just add to it so much more than just a random match that happened. So it is important. I think the Continental Classic added some more storyline again for the year too.
I think that's one of the reasons why they implemented the ranking system again. It gives a more organic approach to why matches are happening.
Exactly.
But I don't think we're going to get away from those random. It's Banditos taking on,
that's
Brody
fine.
King and Dax Harwood in a triple threat match for the TNT title for some random reason. You know what I mean?
I'm into it.
I don't think we're going to see those go away. But at the same time, this will allow storylines to make a little bit more sense, to make it feel like it's more of a competitive sport as opposed to just, you get a title shot. You get a title shot. Well, you haven't been around in 9 months. You get a title shot.
Exactly.
So yeah, it'll give it a little bit more. But
they have to keep up with it, though.
But again, like you brought up, you got to do it right. You can't just, we're going to have them win for the next 6 weeks, 3 times a week just so you can get up to 9 wins. Or however many
just
wins
to justify getting up to that spot. But also there would be times where we would look up the ranking system and it wouldn't have been updated for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that is true.
You know,
true.
and
They
the
gotta do a little
champion's
more
not
on
even
the
the
ball.
champion anymore. So they need to be better about updating it after every single show to make sure the champions are there,
it
the
seems like-
rankings right.
Seems like they're a little bit better. January 1st, MJF got pulled off that roster page real
yeah,
quick.
so
Same thing
whoever's
with
doing
Andrade.
that needs to be on the ranking system for sure.
But big things are happening in AEW. We got ranking systems coming back. I gotta bring it up. The Young Bucks, they look amazing. They sound amazing. The promo they cut.
The Vince mustaches.
On Dynamite or Collision or Rampage or whatever show it
I
is.
think it was Dynamite.
I love it.
With Renee. That was incredible.
I absolutely love that this is going to piss so many people off that so
it
many
already
people
did.
are just typing away still on that same post about how upset and how they knew this entire time the Young Bucks were these sleazy
Yep.
EVPs and they were only in it for themselves.
Yep. And
this is
Sting's
all a
already on their way
facade.
out. So why are they trying to kick somebody out that's already on their way out?
Because they want to make sure
I
that they go
love
over
it. Yep.
and their company that they made.
They
because
wrote the
they
script
signed
so
the
that they
paychecks
can
that-
be in the match.
So
and-
good. I love it. I'll
do
eat
too.
it up.
I do too.
think it's.
See, all the people that are doing all of those things on X are just buying into how good the Young Bucks are as heels.
Right.
Because if you hate it, then they're doing their job correctly.
Right.
They went on and took every single thing that everybody says about them on social media
And they went,
just said, guess what?
Yep.
And now they are referred to as Matthew and Nicholas Jackson across
have
all
to-
platforms.
Refer to them by their God-given names.
Correct.
They are or they say the full thing. I mean,
Executive Vice
President of All Elite Wrestling.
Yes.
They looked at Renee and said, "Did your paycheck get signed today? You're welcome." They have no time for your shenanigans. They have better things to do than sit here in this interview. It's
perfect.
Love it.
It's perfect, and it's funny because you kind of threw this out a while ago.
I called it again.
Good Lord, have mercy these people's ears. When Adam Cole and MJF first started being like goody goody bro chachos, and Tony Khan stepped in to yell at them, you threw out this would be a really good time for Tony Khan to pull the Vince McMahon and be like the asshole executive that
Right.
interjects himself constantly into things and
sways
months later
sways
here it
conditions
is.
so that it goes the way that the corporation
because people
wants.
are already saying that they do it, so why not just buy into it and
Oh,
be
for
like, yeah,
sure.
we did,
For
we did,
sure.
yeah, it's rigged.
They have so much publicity just sitting there, and they haven't done anything to warrant it.
Right.
It's just a theory from individuals that watch the product. Why wouldn't you just lean into it?
Yeah,
Just lean right on into it.
I think it's fantastic.
I am so excited that they finally, and I'm sure this has been one of those things that the minute they saw the momentum that was, they probably had that conversation. Hey, at some point when we turn heel, let's go into this. Like, let's just say yes to
Let's just
everything.
buy
We'll get
into
the
everything.
suits, we'll get the facial hair, we'll have the attitudes,
Right.
We'll have the way we speak.
2 years ago, tell me this wouldn't have been perfect for Cody.
Oh yeah.
I really was hoping. I think we all
that would have
were.
been the only way you could have turned Cody heel
Yeah.
is if he was a corporate stooge.
Exactly. This
And
would have
I mean-
been fun, but I'm really glad Matthew and Nicholas are
Matthew
finally
and
pulling
Nicholas.
this off.
Glad to see you. So glad you're here. Cannot wait. I am supporting Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. Everybody needs to bow down to them. They are. Thank you for giving us an alternative to wrestling. If they didn't do that,
They are my executive
they
vice
are my
presidents.
executive vice presidents. They are.
All right, I'd like to take the time, because I'm sure he's listening, to shout out a very, very special happy birthday to R-Truth
Yes.
of the Judgment Day.
the biggest member of the Judgment Day.
He definitely
Best.
is. He
By
actually
far.
he tweeted a video and showed that he got a card from all of the members of Judgment Day, including Dom and Nick. They signed it.
I have not seen that. I have not seen
Or
the
Tom
other-
and Nick, I'm sorry.
Tom and Nick Mysterio. I still haven't
Yep.
seen the clip of him at his son's basketball game.
It wasn't a clip. It was just a picture.
Oh,
He
it was
went
just
to
a
go
picture?
see his son, I think, shoot his 1,000th.
Point or something. in
Yeah,
basketball.
something like that in basketball at college, and the coach recognized him and shouted him out on Twitter and said, or X, sorry, and said, this is R-Truth of the Judgment Day. So very important to note. Happy birthday to him. But what a fantastic week for R-Truth this week.
What every a fantastic Raw return. Ever since he's been back, he's been on fire.
Every
People
Raw
love him.
has been really
fun. Has 2 T-shirts.
Right. He actually said in an interview that somebody asked him, like, whose idea was it for you to do this? And he was like, well, I was at home and I was like, damn, I need to make some money. Like, I need to get on TV.
Right.
And it was like, I guess Damian Priest, who was like, you need to get R-Truth in here. You need to keep him on. Like, went to the writers and was like, figure out a way to get him in here. And it's just been like so refreshing to have this like.
I wonder
super
if they
group.
thought that this is how big it was going to get. Or if they just were like, hey, let's bring him in. He's good, for a couple weeks, and then we'll phase him out eventually. Or if the fan response
just
was
to see
so
what
positive
happened,
that they were like, well, we'd be stupid to take him out because he's constantly turning
exactly. He's selling T-shirts.
Not only
week.
on WWEshop.com, but apparently in the parking lot making thousands of dollars. Did you see the clip of the amount of money that Dom and Finn were counting?
I did. They were counting it out.
They were like hundreds.
Yeah. Well, Damian Priest had seen that R-Truth was out selling T-shirts outside of the venue, and when he saw how much money he was making, he told him to just make sure he didn't get caught.
Maybe we don't need to get rid of Truth. And,
yeah. Just don't get caught.
But then the best part, and this also has repercussions for his birthday. Damian asked R-Truth, where's JD's cut, and he looked up at Damian and said, well, R-Truth's not in, so he doesn't get a cut. Mm-hmm. And Damian's like, oh, all right, cool.
I actually think that was Finn.
No. That was Damian looked at Finn and told him that JD's not getting a cut, and he pretty much asked him why.
That's right.
R-Truth said he's not on the T-shirt, so.
And Finn didn't argue. Like, that's his boy.
Like, well,
he helped train him.
He
was like,
he doubled down later when he was talking to Dom, counting the money. He's like, oh, and JD doesn't get a cut. I guess we're going to have to split his.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's great. I love this. And then JD actually tweeted out a happy birthday to R-Truth today with a picture of him kicking his ass in the ring. And he said something to the effect of like, happy birthday, asshole, or something like that. It's so good. I love this.
Constant stir in the pot.
Because as of right now, I mean, I think it stands that R-Truth is in the Judgment Day and JD McDonough is not.
Yeah, I mean, they had the match.
Do you think this is going to go to a Royal Rumble match? I feel like this could be a pay-per-view quality match between R-Truth and JD over whether they're in the Judgment Day or not.
I mean, it's a good idea because people care enough. People love R-Truth. It's a fun, refreshing match in between a bunch of serious stuff. They haven't really announced a lot of matches, so there's a potential for at least 2 more matches.
Right.
I mean, geez. And it's this week.
Yeah, I know. It's
crazy.
Surprising there hasn't been, that much. We'll comment on that here in a second. One more question. If that happens, whether it's at Royal Rumble or at Mania, wherever, do you think R-Truth has a chance of beating JD McDonough and retaining his status?
I was going to say, you mean again? Yeah. Totally. People don't want to see JD win. People want to see R-Truth win. That's that feel-good win where we all like, yeah, Truth did it.
And it's funny because people were so behind JD initially.
Yeah.
They were so behind the idea of him joining. Finn was like the one that brought him in, was like, yeah, he's my buddy.
Right.
Trust him. He trusts me and I trust him, so you should trust him.
Exactly.
And now some like random jabroni just shows up and he's like, hey, I'm in your club now. And they're just like, yeah, I guess he's in our club.
Right.
I couldn't see him doing it, but I think it would be a funny dynamic to have it set up like that. Mm-hmm. But speaking of the Royal Rumble and the build-up, we had a comment from New Normal Wrestling over on X. They wanted us to comment on the actual build-up towards Royal Rumble this year. And I to be honest with you, and I feel like it was the same thing last year, there really hasn't been a lot. And I feel like WWE has gotten into a bad rut of only within the last week are you really finalizing the pay-per-view. And I feel like part of the reason why this is with even Royal Rumble, even though there should be there's going to be 60 participants in between the two Rumbles.
Right.
You would think you would have more than there's probably 14 or 15 in front of us right now of between the two of them.
9 men.
It doesn't give me a lot of reason to want to watch it. I want to watch it because the Royal Rumble is one of my favorite pay-per-views, premium live events, events, match types, whatever you want to call it.
It's happening actually not too far away from where we live at Tropicana Field.
Right.
We don't live at Tropicana Field.
They've only announced 9 people on the men's
Yes.
roster, and they've only announced 5 on the women's roster. So you're still leaving a lot of room for interpretation as to who could be involved.
Which is part of the fun in a sense of
course,
who's going to be a part of the Royal Rumble. You definitely have to have that, 1 or 2 people that you're not expecting that aren't on the normal roster, whether it's, Mickie James coming in from TNA, like something like that is really cool, or having somebody new come up from maybe NXT or a free
I'm sure there will be.
agent.
I'm sure we'll have, your Carmelo Hayeses, you might have your Trick Williams.
Actually, I think
Braun Breaker might be.
I was thinking Carmelo Hayes was a part of the Royal Rumble, but they hadn't announced him yet. He was going to speak to one of the GMs about being a part of it, and he got interrupted and never got a chance to say it. So
well, we might see that this week.
Definitely seeing Carmelo Hayes would be great too.
But this is a great opportunity to bring some NXT talent into the fold and give them a chance to be showcased, especially if they're hot on NXT. You know what I mean? But the build up, I feel like it's been lackluster. I really feel like there hasn't been a lot of focus on either one of the Rumbles, and there really hasn't been focused on individual matches. We had the United States Championship between Logan Paul and Kevin Owens has been announced. Yeah, a
little bit of a tournament to see who was going to be the number 1 contender there.
It felt a little lackluster.
It did.
It felt like we could have gotten to Logan Paul and Kevin Owens having a match without having a tournament.
Sure.
I get what they were trying to do, try to shake things up a little bit, try to get there a little bit different than your standard. Well, I have a problem with you because you got a loud mouth. Well, I got a problem with you, so I'm going to punch you in the face.
Exactly.
So I can appreciate the efforts of them trying to move storylines a little bit different than they normally do.
Sure.
I just didn't really land too well with me, and I'm
too
not
exciting really.
And I can't. I mean, we'll talk about it now. I can't see Kevin Owens winning this match as much as I don't want Logan Paul to win.
No, I don't see Kevin Owens winning this match, and I don't see anybody but Roman Reigns winning the main event either.
Yeah, I mean,
hard sell.
Especially with The Rock teasing having a match with Roman, with Cody saying he's got to finish the story, and now he's in the Rumble with CM Punk, who's also trying to, I guess, finish his story. I don't want to diminish my interest in this. The individuals they have announced for the Rumble, I have a feeling are going to be one of the ones that will end up winning between Cody Rhodes, Punk, Bobby Lashley, and Drew McIntyre. Hell, even Gunther I could see walking away with the win at Rumble. I mean, last year he went the entire Rumble, and now he holds, I think it's an hour and 4 minutes and some change for the longest
record
amount of time in there. So I could see any of the guys that they've announced already winning the Rumble.
Right. Actually, this was huge for Rhea last year because she ended up winning the whole thing.
Yeah, she went from,
on her
was
side.
it number 1 or was she number 2? I can't remember.
It's weird calling it number 1 and number 2 because really you're out at the same time.
Yeah.
I kind of hate that, but yeah, one of those, same thing. Gunther was out from the beginning. Rhea Ripley was out from the beginning. This is a good jumping off point, but it's hard because you can't help but get sidelined by WrestleMania. WrestleMania is so close that they're building up WrestleMania as they're doing Royal Rumble, and they're trying to invest you in Royal Rumble. But they're so forward that they forget to do stuff for this one too.
They're already teasing WrestleMania, like I said before, between The Rock, maybe Cody Rhodes, and Roman Reigns.
Right.
So you've already got threads leading to Mania. And you can already tell, well, I don't think the threads are going to break at Rumble.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Now, the one caveat we do have is Damian Priest still has not cashed in.
No, he has not.
Money in the Bank contract.
Right.
But that brings up another point. We have a world champion that, as of right now, is more than likely not capable of performing.
That is correct.
Seth Rollins, in his match against Jinder Mahal, somebody we haven't seen on TV in
what a bummer.
Months, if not years, ended up tearing his MCL.
I believe so. A lot of
pretty severe
injuries.
A pretty severe injury for a world champion, especially a fighting champion like Seth Rollins. He constantly has been defending that title.
He has.
And there has been everything but confirmed plans that it was scheduled to be Seth Rollins versus CM Punk at Mania. Wrestling Observer newsletter has reported that is still tentative plans for Mania, depending on how Seth's healing goes. But again, that brings up the question of, again, where do we go with Seth? Now that he's hurt, he can't do anything. He's definitely not going to be doing anything at Rumble.
Well, I mean, I think he's supposed to address what's going on with him tonight, technically, right? On Raw. If you're dealing with any type of like knee tear like that, like even if you can rehab it, it's going to take a while before you can come back.
Right.
So the idea for me, like I think a week ago, if you would have asked me who was going to win the Royal Rumble, I was definitely thinking CM Punk as well. Just makes sense.
You get that title
CM
shot
Punk's
against
going to
Seth
go.
Rollins.
Yeah. It just makes sense even before CM Punk got in that they would do that. You
Right.
know, with obviously how Seth Rollins has always acted towards Philly Phil.
Phil, you cancer.
You cancer.
It's the harsh word.
So if Seth Rollins is not a part of this, who wins? Do they go with the same idea of the Rumble winner? Or do they have to change up their plans? I mean, I think that they're probably going to have to change up their plans and have somebody else cash in, because you can't have CM Punk win this and just sit around for X amount of months until Seth Rollins gets better so that
Right.
he can finally have that match. Like,
Well, I mean, it's got to accumulate.
that's very
at WrestleMania.
lackluster,
Like,
right?
It's the match at Mania.
He's not going to be back by then.
You don't think he's back by April?
Nah, probably not. With it
Well,
almost
it's
being
early April
February.
too, so it's what, 2.5 months. I mean,
Yeah, a knee
that's
tear,
a decent
that's
amount of time.
rough.
Well, they've already pulled him from all the house shows. They've pulled him from pretty much anything. They
Mm-hmm.
replaced him with Randy Orton and a lot of the stuff for that.
Okay. Smart move. Give him his time. He's going to
you-
need therapy. You know?
If that's the case, if he's not going to be back by Mania, do they strip the title?
I definitely think that you do.
I mean,
I definitely think that you do. I think the right thing to do when your champ gets injured is they give it up. You do whatever kind of battle royal championship
Number one contendership.
bracket, number one contender, whatever it may be, to get a champion. And when that champion that was hurt comes back, they are the first person.
we can just make him an interim. That works
I
all the
don't
time
like
in AEW.
interim. Just give them the championship. They want it fair and square, but the first opponent when they come back is the person that was injured previously.
They did the same thing with this exact same belt when they re-debuted it into the WWE. Finn Balor got the win, won the belt, but actually took that buckle bomb from Seth Rollins, of all people, that put him out of commission for what was like 9 months.
Yeah, it was a wild, similar thing.
So yeah,
They
now
had to strip him too.
Are we looking at another cursed belt?
Is it a cursed belt? No. I think it's a case of this is what happens when you have a working champion who's injured.
Yes.
And it ended up being something different than like what he's been complaining about for a while, which is his back. I think that when you have somebody like that, you know, look at Orange Cassidy or Seth Rollins, they just work constantly. Things are going to happen. Like it's bound to happen that your champion is going to get hurt.
Right.
So I think for me, I'm going to have to, in my mind, shift away that anybody that's going to win the men's Royal Rumble is going to is going to choose Seth as their opponent. In my mind, it's got to be swerved and it's got to be a different champion. So
It's going to be Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. I'm telling you, I'm calling my shot right now. I'm calling my shot. Royal Rumble. Cody Rhodes is going to win the Rumble, and it's going to be a 3-way between Rhodes, Reigns, and The Rock.
Okay, fun.
Mania.
I have a completely different idea here.
Shoot your shot then.
You've already got Gunther. Mm-hmm. That's the champion to skirt this over to. Again, he was huge. He did a fantastic job last year. So make it come down to Gunther and, hey, look who else is on there. Chad Gable. Have we seen it? Absolutely.
So wait,
We've
you're
seen
saying-
Chad Gable and Gunther.
You're saying that Gunther is going to, lose in the Rumble, and Chad Gable's going to win, and he's going to challenge him for the Intercontinental title?
Correct.
At Mania in the main event?
Correct.
No, they're not that crazy.
Mania is 2 nights.
Yeah, and
You do night 1, Gunther versus Chad Gable.
Right.
And then night 2, The Rock versus Roman Reigns.
And then Cody just gets fucked.
It's,
So does CM Punk.
Yeah.
You have Cody and CM Punk in
A pity party.
a pity party match. Yep.
For
I can't,
which guy goes over that left AEW.
I can't see them using the Royal Rumble win for the Intercontinental title. I can't see it.
But it's a good way to take what you already have
Right.
and run with it.
Oh no, I understand.
Instead of trying to come up with a completely different story, say Gunther already beat that honky tonk man's reign, right? It's already done.
Yeah, he's the longest reigning
So
Intercontinental
as
title.
long as he loses it, from here on out, it doesn't matter.
Well, he's going to have to lose it in a big fashion. It's not like he
Right.
could just have a match on Raw and lose to R-Truth or lose
Tell
to
me
Kira Tozawa or lose to
the crowd wouldn't go absolutely apeshit at WrestleMania when Chad Gable finally pulls it off and beats Gunther clean.
I don't
and
disagree.
Gunther is on his way to take Seth's world title.
I don't disagree.
Mic drop.
I don't disagree, but I don't think that they would do that with the Intercontinental title. I don't
I
think
think
they
that's
would.
a good way to put over something that people might look as a mid-card title and put it on such a huge platform.
WWE wouldn't do that with you. I just don't think it would happen.
This is the era of Triple H, and Vince McMahon isn't there anymore. Pete Dunne is back. Anything is possible. Let's go. And I'm my arms are waving. Let's go with what we already have. Gunther versus Chad Gable. Let's do it.
So you think
It's Chad's
you're
time.
shooting your shot. Chad Gable's winning the men's.
He's
Royal
winning
Rumble.
the Royal Rumble, and he's going to WrestleMania Night 1, and he's going to win it, and it's going to be just as exciting as when Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn won.
What about the women's Royal Rumble?
I have to, just because maybe personally I'm biased and want to see it, it's got to be Becky Lynch, and it's got to be versus Rhea at WrestleMania. And damn, that could have been Night 1 headline as well.
I
Becky
can't
Lynch and
disagree
Rhea.
with that.
Ooh, I got full body chills.
The only other person I could see it being would be Bayley.
I love Bayley.
She's the only other person I could see getting the win, and then she would have to face Io Sky at Mania
That'd be
for
great.
the belt because she's finally tired of the rest of Damage Control snubbing their nose at her, and looking at her like a second-rate individual in the campaign or the party. I'm talking RPG terminology here, but I think this would be a perfect way to move the belt and to give Bayley a chance to go face again.
Absolutely.
You have her have all of this stuff building all the way up. She ends up winning the Rumble. And the entire time it's, you're going to challenge Rhea. You're going to challenge Rhea. You're going to challenge Rhea because you're not going to challenge Dakota. Or, I'm sorry, Io. And then it gets to a few weeks, she's getting pushed. She's getting pushed around.
Exactly.
She's getting, beat up. And then all of a sudden she finally says, no, I'm going after your belt. And she finally turns and and the crowd gets behind her. She starts doing hugs again because she's already shown that she wants to do hugs.
And it would be fun if she won the Royal Rumble and Damage Control's there and she goes to do the hug and they don't want to hug her. Mm-hmm. You just keep teasing it. I mean, yeah, that would be fantastic too.
That I could see Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley 100%, but I don't
that's
think
a WrestleMania match.
I don't think they need the build up. I don't think they need the Royal Rumble to get that title match.
Sure,
I think
they
those
don't.
two, the promo they had this past week when Becky Lynch came out and said, I think you're better than me. I'm, even now sitting here, I got chills. I'm not the biggest Becky Lynch fan.
That was
so good.
And then Rhea said, I hope you win it. See you then. See you at WrestleMania.
So and that's what I mean. Like it is a WrestleMania caliber match, and I don't think that the Royal Rumble is necessary. I think you're taking that chance away from a different storyline just to fuel that one. I think that one has more than enough gas behind it that it doesn't need anything more than one of the GMs to go, damn it, that's the match at Mania. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I want Bayley to win this. The only other way, Nia Jax. Massive nuclear heat. She wins the Royal Rumble. She challenges whoever loses or whatever, but just imagine the booze. When the biggest heel, you got to admit, she's the biggest heel in the women's roster in WWE, wins the Rumble and just takes her snide little smile and walks off the
heel
ramp.
heat, fantastic, but it's just like stealing the stage from better talent. No offense.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Heel heat's always fun, though.
Heel heat's so good.
So we have WWE Monday Night Raw coming up this tonight. If you're listening to it on Monday, matches seem a little bit random, but could be definitely very fun. We have The Miz versus I don't know if it's Tom or Nick.
I think it's Tom.
Mysterio, Tom. Okay.
Right.
Valhalla's taking on Ivy Nile. Ivar versus the future Royal Rumble winner Chad Gable, and Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest. Damian Priest is going to have to cash in that Money in the Bank here soon because
he's running out of time.
Drew
McIntyre and him been having some problems, especially since Damian Priest went to cash in during Drew McIntyre's match and kind of screwed a bunch of stuff up, which Drew blames him for why he lost his match. So that'll be an interesting match. Friday on SmackDown, we're going to have Carlito will be taking on Santos Escobar. They've had that LWO and then Santos Escobar's little troupe now. Going back and forth. We got a singles match between Carmelo Hayes and Austin Theory. And then we have a tag team title match between Katana Chance. I said that so wrong. Katana Chance and Caden Carter versus the Kabuki Warriors.
I do like that this is again happening, that the women are defending the tag team championships and that it's becoming kind of a reoccurring thing.
Yeah, they're starting to build that
I like
tag
that.
title division back up, which I think they need. Maybe it's because certain individuals might be on the way back from Impact and NJPW.
Well, considering that they've definitely said that Trinity is leaving TNA.
Yep, she is officially gone from TNA. They've announced it. Looks
I
like
think that's inevitable WWE return.
I'd like to see her in the Bloodline. I would love to see a women's Bloodline storyline. I don't know why they've never done anything like that. I mean, it's
definitely,
so she
put
could
some
come
heel
in.
heat on Trinity.
Yeah,
Fun.
especially after being
I mean,
super
that's her
face.
husband is Jimmy. So
Well, I mean, especially after being super face over an Impact or TNA now, I could totally see her going super heel. I mean, it would fit perfectly.
I mean, I absolutely agree with you there. I really hope that they do something better with her and don't just stick her in the tag division again.
Yeah, maybe she won't walk out this time.
Let's hope not. So this week on Dynamite, Tony Khan, he went over to Sam's Club or Costco, wherever, he likes to shop, and he bought a big grill.
Right.
Lots of hot dogs, hamburgers. He's cooking for everybody. We're all invited to AEW Dynamite this week.
Just tell
Adam
Coffee and Wrestling sent you.
Copeland versus Minoru Suzuki. Jeff Hardy versus Swerve Strickland. And Penta El Zieto Miedo versus Hangman Adam Page. Also, Trent Beretta versus Wardlow. And the AEW World Trios titles will be defended. Hopefully the Bang Bang Gang will be close by as Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed will take on the Mogul Embassy. And I'm sure, I just have to say, it will only be probably mere weeks before the Guns and Jay turn on them. So let's just enjoy it while it lasts.
I'm sure. Well, I have a weird feeling that Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony are going to go their separate ways after this match, because they've already lost their trios tag titles.
Right.
Now they're going to try and gain another trios tag titles.
Right, that they're clearly not going to win. Not because they don't have it in them.
I could see Brian Cage being a singles competitor for a while.
He's great. I love Brian.
And I really would like to see Toa Leona and Khan go as just a tag, or even in singles in their own right.
Oh, sure.
But then on AEW Collision, they've only got one match announced, but it's going to be a hell of a
plenty.
match. It's a 6-man tag team steel cage elimination match between
Holy
Daniel
hell.
Garcia and FTR and the House of Black. So there'll be I don't know the specifics, but there will be a steel cage and an elimination style match. If you are pinned, you are out of the match. However, your fellow compatriots in your tag team are to stay in until your entire team has been either submitted or pinned.
Okay, so do you think this is going to have some maybe a little more dissension of the House of Black by having Buddy take another loss or get out right away or something like that? Because it kind of seems like maybe the House of Black won't be the trios for too much longer.
Yeah, I could see it going that way. With Buddy Matthews getting the loss against Daniel Garcia this week, I mean, I could see a little bit of dissension happening. I don't know if we'll see them split up or if Buddy's gonna just be the scapegoat for it. I mean, they do have the potential. Brody King and Malachi are a tag team in their own right. But honestly, I think this is all just more for Daniel Garcia and to give him a bigger highlight of his professional wrestler.
Yeah.
And peel more layers back of that.
Yeah, a lot of story with Daniel Garcia.
Comes out with the dancing, and it's been kind of his thing. But I think it's a story of the House of Black is always trying to push everybody to be the best they are, whatever the hell their intentions are. As much as I love the House of Black, it's been very confusing as to what their intentions are in AEW.
Sure.
It seems like sometimes they're trying to bring out the best that individuals don't see in themselves, much like how Swerve was doing with Hangman. But it just feels very muddied sometimes. The spookiness aspect of the house just takes away from the intentions.
Yeah.
And I think that this is going to be another one of those, and I hope they don't fall prey to that again. But I think it's more for Daniel Garcia to be lifted up, as opposed to they might use it later on to make dissension in the House of Black. But I think as of right now, we're not going to see much of that. I think it's going to be more of, again, just Danny's Garcia's
story.
Yeah, it's going to be Danny's, he's finally getting support from AEW's roster, from guys that are champions on AEW's roster and he's going up against guys that are also champions on AEW's roster. So it puts him in a position to where it's like he has to step up his game in order to stay on the level of the other 5 guys in the match.
And now Daniel Garcia has to pin Malachi Black.
Yes.
He's the last one.
Well, you see, you could even run to where FTR gets eliminated early and you have a handicap style situation between Daniel Garcia. I'm sure Brody King's going to be in there and possibly Malachi Black, and then, again, you've already got the sub-boss of Brody King that Daniel Garcia has already had to triumph over once before. And in any other video game, before you fight the big bad evil guy, you always end up having to fight that sub-boss again for some reason.
Exactly.
He shows up in the different color or different transformation. He's got a different type of car, whatever it is. You always have to beat the sub-boss before you go against the big bad evil guy. And I think having Daniel Garcia in an elimination match where it's just, you've got FTR got eliminated, Buddy got eliminated, and now he has to really step up and and then he steps up and he beats both of them and he finally cements himself as a confident professional wrestler.
And Malachi has that demeanor to where if Daniel Garcia was in a situation and it was him and Brody again, for Daniel to pin Brody and Malachi just kind of step back and sit down and watch.
It would shake him.
And not break it up and be like, okay, well then this is fair. And then he's able to pin Malachi. That's going to be huge for Daniel Garcia's singles run and him defining himself again as a pro wrestler.
Right.
Not just a sports entertainer.
But I think he's going to realize that his character can be both. You can be a sports entertainer.
That's the
idea. And a professional wrestler.
You need to be both.
Right. Exciting things happening on all 4 shows. Of course, TNA has got, I didn't even pull the card up there. NJPW's got stuff going on. They've got people leaving. They've got people joining. Tama Tonga just ended up finishing up with NJPW.
Yeah, I think 14 years.
14 years. He's coming back to the States. So another free agent that who knows where he'll show up. He's got plenty of potential to go to either AEW, TNA, WWE.
Hey, that's a founding member of Bullet Club. What better way for him to revamp his career than come back to the United States to AEW?
Right. So professional
you got Okada,
wrestling. You
got Will Ospreay. A lot of.
Okada's an interesting topic we didn't even get into today about where he's going to go. He's been announced that he is leaving NJPW at the end of January.
A heated topic in the coffee and wrestling household as we have completely different ideas as to what Okada should do with his professional wrestling career. But you know what? It's up to just Okada and Okada himself. I think he will have a great career.
I'm sure
no matter what he does.
He's going to make the right decision no matter where he goes.
AEW,
WWE, and TNA goes back to NJPW. Wherever he ends up,
hey,
is going to be the right
look
decision.
at Matt Cardona. He's just been doing the indies.
The indie god.
You imagine Okada and Mustafa Ali on the indies just
That's another one. Mustafa Ali's out in the reaches right now doing indie shows left, right, and center.
Oh, that's something too. We were just talking about Buddy, doing his own single thing. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, I still don't like calling it X, has really been conversing a lot about Buddy Matthews really needs to run back that famous 305 live match with Mustafa Ali.
Yeah.
And people are saying, well, then that means you just have to come to AEW.
Right.
So...
Yeah.
I'm sitting on the literally edge of my seat waiting for that to happen.
2024 is going to be one of the most interesting years of professional wrestling.
Yeah, dream matches everywhere.
Well, not even just that, just the amount of people that with TKO Holdings really looking and scrutinizing who they have on their roster.
Trimming the fat.
Trimming the fat. You have people like Dolph Ziggler who are getting paid too much to sit on their ass and do nothing.
He agreed.
So they're taking... Shelton Benjamin was another one. Not on TV, not on NXT. What are we doing with them? You cut them. They are a business that are trying to make money, and they're trying to trim the fat so that they have nothing but profitable superstars. So you're going to see a lot of WWE superstars that have either been on WWE for a long time, that have ran their course, are going to be dropped into the free agency with still years left on their life expectancy as a professional wrestler, and they're going to go to TNA, to Wrestling Revolver, to GCW, to, you know,
they still have
MLW,
it.
to AEW.
Sure.
You know, so 2024 is going to be one of the most interesting years in professional wrestling outside of the WWE. Even within the WWE, it's going to be interesting. But outside of the WWE, what people do with non-WWE wrestlers, 2024 is going to be an absolute banger.
Agreed. All right, friends, that's going to do it for this episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you follow us across all social media platforms. We're at CAW Wrestling Pod. You can find me on X at A Bacon Party.
You can find me on X at Gunk Dudley. Make sure you start your week right every Monday with a fresh episode of Coffee and Wrestling, a wrestling podcast. It's posted at 4 a.m. Monday mornings, so it's up well before you are. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay caffeinated. We'll see you in the next episode.